Alright, now that we got the classic out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the adaptation that is more like a vampiric love story. A very tragic vampiric love story. So, without further ado, let's dive into it. We're talking about this one. Not that one. Definitely not that one. No, this one. Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and stars Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Keanu Reeves, Anthony Hopkins, and a few others, and was a more dramatic take and a kind of a different interpretation of Dracula that many others weren't familiar with. This movie is really interesting to me because it takes a more theatrical, play style performance with lavish costuming and old school special effects, a top A cast, a lot of violence and some nudity thrown into it, and you've got a very tragic love story, which Dracula beforehand wasn't really much of a love story until this one, and I think it really cements the character a lot more. And I think moving forward, kind of like how Dracula from 1931 did to that character, this one brings a lot more to him. And so going forward, whenever you see an adaptation of Dracula, like in Castlevania, the animated series on Netflix, you could definitely tell they took inspiration from this adaptation of Dracula, and it shows. Dracula is this guy who wants to feel loved again, after his wife, spoilers, after his wife commits suicide, he's lonely and depressed and is just this monster afterwards, and basically wants to be loved. Even though he's got 3 mistresses left in his castle, he's just this shell of a man, and very, very much a mastermind when it comes to getting what he wants, and you see that throughout the movie. Gary Oldman as Dracula is absolutely fantastic. He does a marvelous job balancing between the very creepy older Count Dracula that you see, very menacing as well, and to the very devilish and sly Prince Vlad that he plays. And also, when you see the monstrous sides of Dracula within this movie, it is very great. Which, once again, I have to commend the costuming and the production and the makeup design. It is truly out of this world, the production that they've made for this movie. It screams gothic through and through, and it is absolutely beautiful to look at. That it is on point, and it's no wonder why it won an Academy Award for Best Hair and Makeup, I believe. And it is drowning in atmosphere, and I loved every minute of that. I also want to talk about Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder does really well in this role as she plays both the wife of Jonathan Harker, played by Keanu Reeves, which we'll get into later, and this woman that is drawn and almost hypnotized to Dracula. Like, she doesn't want to, but she is. And in some ways she does, and in some ways she doesn't. She is definitely toyed with between two worlds, and it is saddening. It is very saddening. Also, Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing is great. It is a much different take in some ways than the one that you see from the original, but I still loved it. And surprisingly, Anthony Hopkins brings a lot of comedy in this adaptation, but I loved it. It was so funny, and he's still this man who not only just knows everything there is when it comes to vampiric knowledge, he's also this guy that's got a few screws loose. He's a little eccentric, I will say. So you have basically this guy that, while he is so very smart and knowledgeable and wise when it comes to his practice in medicine and anatomy and the supernatural, he's also a little loony, but is such an entertaining character to watch. And like I said, is Performed very well by Anthony Hopkins. Now for the big the big thing. Keanu Reeves as Jonathan Harker. I love Keanu Reeves. I really do. And I still like him a lot in this movie. But it's definitely a far cry from his best role. Keanu Reeves playing Jonathan Harker is still really good. Keanu brings this relatability to this character, which is great. But you can tell that this role wasn't really made for him. But even though it wasn't something that was made for him, he still makes it work. You can truly tell that Johnny Depp is who was originally eyeballed for this role, but I still really like Keanu Reeves in this role. And for what the movie is, with him in it, it is still very enjoyable. He doesn't ruin the movie whatsoever. He still is entertaining to watch. And like I said, still brings a relatability to him, but you can tell it's very early Keanu, so you get the very much Bill and Ted sort of acting style that he has before, but he still is good in the movie. One thing I want to talk about this movie that not many people really talk about is the music. The music is beautiful. It is so good, and it's one that I'm gonna have to seek out. They did a great job with the musical story. It still captures that gothic element that the lore of Dracula has. It is great, as is the special effects. The special effects are a fascinating thing as well, because there is no computers used within this movie at all. They used turn-of-the-century special effects. We're talking like 19aughts, 1910s sort of special effects. It is truly something special in the best ways. It brings an eeriness and unsettlingness that a computer in the 90s wouldn't be able to compete with. It brings an unsettledness, like in scenes when the movement of the characters isn't right. It's because it's played backwards, and it works so well. I've never really watched a Francis Ford Coppola movie until this, and I'm kind of glad because it makes me want to look into what he's done with The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. There's a lot of drama in this movie that I feel like are in his other films, but the drama that is just definitely cinematic and in a way that is beautifully told, and I now look forward to seeing more of his work. In terms of the negative things, I don't have a lot. I will say some of the things that I do have are minor. They don't hamper my enjoyment and entertainment and respect for this movie, but there are some things that I do want to address, and one of them is the pacing of this movie. It is long, and you can feel it's long. And I feel like it can turn some people off. Another thing is, with the direction of this movie, some can say it's a little pretentious, mainly because it's played so seriously and so dramatically. Some would argue that it's a little over the top and how dramatic and stage play theatrical this movie tends to be. I could see that being a turnoff for a lot of people. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, I could tell that's kind of what they were going for, but I still thoroughly enjoyed myself. And everybody is, how do I want to put this politely? A lot of people in this movie are sexually aroused, and it's a little bizarre. I'm not going to lie. That is a choice. Whether it's good or bad, I leave that up to you. Just throwing that out there, I think it will throw some people off, and not in the best of ways. I didn't hate it, but I didn't necessarily care a lot for it either. But once again, all these things that I'm pointing out aren't necessarily digs at the movie or problems per se I had with it. It's just more of, it wasn't my kind of flavor or taste, but it didn't hamper my enjoyment of the movie overall. As a whole, Bram Stoker's Dracula is a solid movie, and definitely one I think I'm going to have to whip out every Halloween season, because it is, I love the atmosphere. I love the production. I love a lot of the acting within this movie. I love the special effects they use. There's a lot of things that this movie gets right and really puts you in that Halloween spirit. And like it is the perfect movie for this fall spooky time. And if you guys have not checked it out, I urge you to give it a shot. I won't say it's for everybody, but I will definitely say that it is one worth experiencing at least once. Those are my overall thoughts of Bram Stoker's Dracula. There's a lot that could be taken down and stripped down and talk about, but I don't want to take a whole lot of time considering my videos tend to run a little long, but these are my thoughts. I've really enjoyed it. What do you guys think? Have you seen it? Have you not seen it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you interested to checking it out? Let me know in the comments below. Always, if you've got any suggestions or recommendations, keep them coming. I love to see them. If you want to keep up with more content like this and enjoy more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe. You can join in on all the other fun that we talk about here on the channel, whether it be for Spooktober or a lot of the other stuff that I tend to have. I appreciate you all for stopping by. Thank you all so much, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.